Have you ever wondered why you wake up every Monday promising yourself things will be different, but by Friday everything looks exactly the same? Why every new habit dies before it becomes real, every dream fades before it becomes action, and every version of yourself remains trapped inside your mind? What if the problem isn't your potential, your motivation, or your intelligence, but the invisible story you keep telling yourself every single day? And here's the twist. That story doesn't sound like a story. It sounds like truth. You say, I'm like this, I can't do that, I've tried before. And every sentence is a prison disguised as logic. Most people never change because they confuse their past patterns with their identity. They think their limitations are facts when they're only memories wearing confidence. You know what's crazy? People want transformation, but spend their whole life defending who they currently are. You say you want to change, but deep down, you're terrified of letting go of the version of you people already recognize. Because change doesn't only demand effort, it demands loss. Loss of comfort, loss of certainty, loss of the excuses that kept you safe but small, and that's why motivation never lasts. Motivation fights your habits, but your habits are built like armor. Have you ever noticed how your mind always finds a perfect reason to delay what matters? Not today, next week, when things calm down and suddenly 5 years disappear inside those words. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Who would you be without your excuses? Think for a moment. If every reason you used to justify staying the same vanished, what would remain? You'd be naked in front of possibility. And that's terrifying, right? That's why your brain prefers predictable misery over uncertain growth. It's not that you're weak. It's that your inner narrative thinks survival means sameness. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Staying the same also demands courage, because it means facing the pain of knowing you could be more and choosing not to. Change only begins when the pain of staying stuck becomes heavier than the fear of moving forward. You know those people who seem unstoppable? The ones who stick to habits, chase goals, reinvent themselves. You might think they were born disciplined, but most of them were just forced into a moment where staying the same was no longer an option. They looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. They felt disgust, shame, frustration, hope, something powerful enough to break the surface of routine. And that moment didn't give them superpowers. It simply broke the illusion that tomorrow would save them. Change started the exact second they said, I'm done lying to myself. Have you said that yet? Or are you still comfortable with your favorite lie? I'll start later. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man who spent 10 years telling everyone he wanted to get in shape. Every January, he bought new shoes, supplements, workout plans. Every December, he looked the same. People stopped believing him, and eventually, he stopped believing himself. One night, after staring at old pictures of the shape he once was, something clicked. Not motivation, not inspiration, responsibility. He realized the world owed him nothing, and his dreams weren't waiting, he was. He stopped saying, I want, started saying, I do, and for the first time his actions aligned with his identity. Did he fail sometimes? Yes. But he didn't quit, because quitting would be meant returning to the person he refused to be. Change came not from perfection, but from honesty. Have you ever noticed how you protect your limitations as if they were treasures? You say, I don't have time, yet hours disappear in scrolling. You say, I don't know how, yet tutorials are everywhere. You say, I don't believe in myself, yet every person you admire once felt the same. The biggest enemy of your future is the comfort of your current logic. And logic is dangerous because it feels smart. It tells you why something won't work instead of asking how it could. People who change ask better questions. Not can I, but how will I? Not what if I fail, but what if I never try? And suddenly the mind opens. Instead of closing, the hardest part of transformation isn't starting. It's deciding who you're no longer willing to be. Most people never make that decision. They wait for motivation like rain in the desert. But change isn't rain. It's fire. It burns the old version of you so the new one can breathe. And yes, fire hurts. Growth hurts. Discipline hurts. But regret destroys from the inside. It whispers at night. It shadows your achievements. It reminds you of every moment you settled for less. And the terrifying part is regret doesn't explode, it accumulates. One avoided choice at a time. One broken promise at a time. Until you realize you've become a museum of almosts. Look at your habits. Not your dreams, not your feelings, your habits. Because your habits reveal your future like a window reveals the sky. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. And habits aren't random. They are proof of what you truly value, not what you say you value. If you value comfort, your actions show it. If you value growth, your actions prove it. Change begins when your behaviors stop betraying your desires. When your habits and your identity finally walk in the same direction instead of fighting each other every morning. Let me ask you something that might sting. When was the last time you finished something you promised yourself? Not something you told your friends, not something you posted online, something you promised privately. If you can't remember, that's why you feel stuck. Every broken promise to yourself weakens your self-respect. And self-respect is the fuel of transformation. When you say you'll do something and you do it, even if no one sees, you start trusting yourself again. And trust builds momentum. Momentum becomes identity. An identity, that's when change becomes permanent. People think discipline is punishment, but discipline is self-loving action. It's the proof that you care enough about your future to inconvenience your present. Anyone can dream, anyone can plan. But discipline is the language of those who take responsibility for their destiny. And before you say, but I'm not disciplined, listen to this. Discipline is built like a wall, one brick at a time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop quitting every time you feel discomfort. The people you admire didn't succeed because they always felt like it. They succeeded because they acted even when they didn't. You're not missing motivation. You're missing identity. Motivation fades. Identity stays. When you say, I'm trying to quit smoking, you're someone battling against your past. But when you say, I'm not a smoker, your actions become a reflection of who you are becoming. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes habits. Habits shape life. So ask yourself, what identity have you been holding on to that you need to let go? And what identity could you adopt that would force you to rise? Remember, every transformation begins with identity, not effort. Let's get even deeper. Your friends, your family, your environment, whether you realize it or not, shape your ceiling. If everyone around you accepts mediocrity, it becomes invisible to you. If everyone around you avoids challenges, comfort looks normal. And suddenly your potential becomes optional. But when you surround yourself with people who expand your mind, who chase growth, who hold themselves accountable, your excuses start sounding embarrassing. Social proof isn't just persuasion. It's invisible permission to rise. Change your environment, and your identity has space to evolve. Let me be blunt. The world doesn't care about what you could have been. The world responds to what you repeatedly do. People judge your consistency, not your intentions. You want to be remembered for the dreams you talked about to ULL. Be remembered for the dreams you executed. That might sound cold, but it's empowering because it means you don't need anyone's approval to change. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need a dramatic moment. You only need a decision, reinforced by action, repeated through discipline, until it becomes identity. Here is the paradox. You want change until you admit you don't actually want change. You want the idea of change. You want the feeling of progress without the responsibility of transformation. But when you finally accept that wanting is not enough, that wishing is not action, everything shifts. You stop negotiating with your comfort zone and start demanding more from yourself. And at that moment, the world opens. Not because the world changed, but because you finally did. So what if today, right now, you said no more? No more waiting, no more delaying, no more pretending the future will save you. What if this moment became the line in the sand? What if the version of you watching this became the version of you acting after this? You don't need a perfect plan. You just need the first step. And you take the first step, not because you're ready, but because staying here hurts more than moving forward. If you want real change, you have to be brutally honest. Honest about your excuses. Honest about your distractions. Honest about the parts of yourself you protect because they keep you safe from growth. And honesty hurts. But it heals. The moment you stop lying to yourself, the world can no longer lie to you. You stop accepting crumbs when you deserve the whole table. You stop seeking validation because validation grows inside your own consistency. And now, the final question. Who do you become after watching this? The same person, or someone who finally realizes that change is not something you wait for it, as something you create? Your life is happening either way. Time is passing, whether you act or not. The only question that matters is, will you be proud of who you are becoming when today becomes memory? If the answer is no, then change starts now. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now. Because the future won't magically transform you, but your next decision might. If this message hits you, don't just feel it, use it. Choose one promise to yourself today and follow through, even if it's small. Especially if it's small, because change doesn't arrive as a wave. It begins as a ripple. And if you keep that ripple moving, one day you'll look back and realize something unbelievable. You didn't just change. You became someone new.